We've talked a lot over the last few months about the vision that both Utah and the administration, Trump's administration, have about the homelessness problem and how we're going to deal with that. It was a huge issue, Holly, if you recall, in the last municipal election we had and even the county election, because people were saying, what are you going to do about the homeless population? I attended a debate here in Salt Lake just a few weeks ago, and it came up from a number of the people who were in the audience asking the candidates, what are you going to do about the homeless problem? It's a huge problem, and we're hearing about Salt Lake having, I don't know, it sounds like a kind of a homeless campus, some 1,300 beds, treatment services. I mean, does that seem to be in line with what this vision is?
Yeah, and we have talked about this on the show before, and we've talked about where this is being proposed, and it's out there kind of by the airport. I think you know where the area is. It's not close to like public transportation or other easily accessible areas, but I saw in the New York Times, remember, so President Donald Trump said I think via executive order, wanted to make it easier to have non-voluntary commitment of people who are experiencing mental illness issues. And of course that impacts the homeless population. But this is, the New York Times did a lengthy piece in Utah, Trump's vision for homelessness begins to take shape. So what this article is saying is this site, which was announced last month after, quote, a secretive search, those are their words, will treat addiction and mental illness and provide a humane alternative to the streets, where afflictions often go untreated and people die at alarming rates. So I'm not sure on that information, but that's what they're claiming, right? Is that we're going to have this big homeless campus.
Yeah, and part of the logic before getting people there is what they call civil commitment, which is a commitment is a commitment. Like you're there by order of a judge or order of someone that you're there. And so there are some people that think this is a secure facility, like you can't leave facility, which is not, I think, what some people's vision of a homeless center should be. If it's a lockdown facility, it's 1,300 acres.
I don't think it's
1,300 people. I'm sorry.
Right. But it's large. But look, here's one of the issues.
16 acres. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But here's one of the issues that is brought up in this New York Times article. So they talked with Randy Shumway. Let's see. He's the chairman of the State Homeless Services Board. And these are some of his quotes, and I understand why they give people some heartburn. Utah will end a harmful, quote, culture of permissiveness and guide homeless people towards human thriving. That sounds great. But he also said that this campus will be a place where people will go and not be able to leave. Like, basically, they will not have the freedom to come and go, and that they will be treated, and it sounds to me like whether they want to or not. And he said this is how people would enter the facility. Law enforcement would send, quote, rescue teams, which would identify homeless people in the city and offer them a choice. So we can take you to court and you can go to jail. We don't want to do that. We have a resource-rich alternative, but you also cannot leave voluntarily.
Yeah, I mean, that's not much of a choice. If you recall, we did speak with Wayne Niederhauser, who was the Utah State Homeless Coordinator, about ensuring that it was a safe place for everyone.
We want to make sure that this is not only a safe place for people that are in the campus, we want to make sure that it's safe for the surrounding neighborhood and community.
And you can only imagine that the surrounding neighbor and community are concerned about this, because they're thinking, well, it's always the don't put it in my backyard.
It's not just that. If you remember when we first heard about this and we talked about it on our show, there was a neighbor, and they have a farm, if I remember correctly, saying, look, when the reason they were farming there is because there wasn't anything around it, right? And now they're going to have, if this is built as announced, they're going to have this homeless
facility.
I want to say camp, but they're trying to get rid of camps. So this campus, this homeless campus for up to 1,300 people, and they were concerned about the impacts not only on traffic potentially in and out of the neighborhoods, but how that might impact their farm that they have been working on for a number of years.
Right, and Senator Luz Escamilla actually talked about the location and how it would affect the people that are there and the surrounding community.
No, I don't think this is the right location for multiple reasons. I don't believe there's enough access to begin with. There's nothing that surrounds that place with services and programs.
And there isn't a lot of transit around there, transportation. Yeah. So the in and out part would be a problem, especially for the surrounding. Because if it's near a bus stop or train stop or something like that, you can imagine people having access. But if not, then people will leave and go through the neighboring communities, the neighboring neighborhoods.
So the New York Times article points out that the nearest public bus stop is 2 miles away, which is about an hour's walk over stretches of road that have no sidewalks. And when we asked, I can't remember if it was Niederhauser that we asked or someone else, but one of the people that we talked to when we were first talking about this issue said they would provide shuttles so that people could come and go and they could get to medical appointments. But they were also trying to provide a one-stop shop on site so that they could have therapy, that they could have addiction treatment, those types of things. But State Senator Jen Plum, who is a Democrat and she's also an ER physician, she says, and these are her words in the New York Times article, quote, "What makes you think anybody's going to stay there?" And then she said, "Oh, excuse me, they don't have the right to leave." That's what's going to make them stay there, right? Is that this becomes then a quote unquote secure facility, maybe even like a lockdown.
And that's what I think troubles a lot of people, Holly, because the idea of having a homeless place, a homeless location where there are services such as medical, dental, housing, food, other things that are available to the people that are the residents that are there is one thing, but making it so that they can't leave, I mean, I think that troubles some people on just the whole due process level. Like, how do you hold somebody? And that's why we talked about
involuntary commitment.
Right. That's why we talked about the civil commitment order. Yeah. But you can't just civilly commit everyone that's on the street, and you can't really say, hey, you can either stipulate to a civil commitment or we'll take you to jail.
Right.
I mean, that seems to be fairly coercive. That's not a way that we want to get 1,300 people into this facility.
Well, it's the way the New York Times describes Randy Shumway's approach is that nearly 2/3 of the 1,300 people there could be there for involuntary treatment. 400 beds would be set aside for psychiatric treatment. Another 400 beds would provide substance abuse treatment as, quote, an alternative to jail with entry and exit not voluntary.
Yeah, I mean, that the civil commitment part makes sense. The fact that there's housing, that there are other resources available there makes sense. And we often think about, hey, there's no room in the inn. Salt Lake County's pretty full, but that is an area where there is some open, it's kind of just grass right now. I
saw a news article yesterday that said it's basically a mosquito swamp. And so there are people who have real concerns about that it's swampy, and that means it's mosquito infested during the summer months. And we know that was an issue with the new jail out in Tooele, right? It ended up being really mosquito laden. But another issue, I think, too, we have a texter who said that sounds like a concentration camp. It certainly reminds me of the Topaz internment camp where people were rounded up and put there because they had Japanese ancestry. Do we really want to go down that road? I mean, we also have a CNN article this week that said Utah is on the list of states that could hold ICE internment camps, basically revisiting the internment camps that we thought we had moved past.
Yeah.
Right. So look, there are some concerns. I hope that there are answers that seem to be more compassionate and more kind than just saying we're going to hold you against your will because we think you need to be treated, and that's the compassionate thing to do is treat you.
Right, and there are people, business owners and homeowners that are concerned about the homeless population on the streets, and so there's a flip side to it, which is, hey, let's find some place for people to go and some place for people to get services that's not just out on the street. I think a lot of the homeless population will choose not to go there, and we may not make a big dent in what we're seeing around town.